3 days after the resurrection. While the world believed he was a ghost, Jesus met privately in a sealed room with Mary Magdalene and a small group of initiates. The air was thick with the silence of the grave. They asked him a question no one else dared to whisper, a question that has haunted every spiritual seeker for 2,000 years. Teacher, why do those of us who walk the path still feel intense desires of the flesh? Why does this fire burn hotter in us than in others? Why are we tormented by lust even as we seek the light? Jesus looked at them and smiled the smile of someone who has seen the machinery behind the curtain. You think this intensity is a curse, he said. It is not. It is proof. The Archons only amplify sexual desire in those who carry enough vital energy to threaten their entire system. If you clicked on this video, you already know something most people do not. That intense sexual desire you feel, the kind that seems too strong for your body, that appears at the worst times. That makes you question if you are really spiritual at all. That is not weakness. That is proof you are a pneumatic. That is proof you are a chosen one. That is proof the rulers of this reality consider you threatening enough to require their most sophisticated harvest protocol. You are not here to learn how to fight this fire. Fighting it only feeds it. You are here to understand what you have already been doing unconsciously your entire life. You have been transmuting this amplified energy into spiritual fuel. You just didn't know the mechanics. Tonight, you are going to learn to do it consciously. If you recognize this intensity in yourself, if you feel the heat I am speaking of, then comment below right now. I am pneumatic. Declare your nature to the algorithm, and let us begin the unveiling. Before I explain what the Archons are doing to your biology, you need to understand something about yourself that the church and society have actively tried to suppress. You are already winning this battle. You just do not know it yet. The fact that you are watching this video proves something critical. You are not a Hylic. You are not a psychic. You are a pneumatic, a spirit seed. And pneumatics have vital energy that runs at a frequency most humans cannot even perceive. That is not something you developed through practice. That is what you are. It is your natural state. It is your resonance. And here is the forbidden truth. That high-frequency vital energy, that spiritual voltage, it is the exact same thing as sexual energy. They are not two different things. They are the same force expressing through different centers. It is the Kundalini. It is the life current itself. The same energy that makes you seek the monad, that makes you question reality, that makes you hungry for truth. That is the energy you are feeling as intense sexual desire in the lower chakras. This energy is stronger in you than in 99% of humans. When a Hylic feels sexual desire, it is mild, simple, like hunger. They act on it without thinking and move on. No guilt, no conflict. The Archons get a steady, low-grade loosh from them just by letting them live normally. When most psychics feel sexual desire, it is moderate, manageable. They can satisfy it or ignore it without much internal drama. But when you, a pneumatic, feel sexual desire, it is intense, overwhelming. It feels like fire burning in your veins. And here is what no one has ever told you. That intensity is not a problem. That intensity is power. The reason you feel sexual desire more intensely than other people is because you have more raw creative force than other people. You are not broken. You are powerful, and the Archons know it better than you do. Now, Here is the secret of your unconscious mastery. Every time that intense desire appears and you do not immediately act on it like an animal, every time you pause, every time you question it, every time you feel conflicted about it, you are already transmuting. You are already raising that energy from the base toward higher consciousness. The conflict you have been interpreting as spiritual failure, that friction, that is actually transmutation in progress. You've been doing this for years. You just thought you were failing when actually you were succeeding. The only thing missing was conscious recognition of the mechanism. Tonight, that changes. Tonight we give you the blueprints to the machine. Let me show you what the rulers of this age are actually doing with your sexual energy so you can recognize their amplification the moment it happens. The Archons do not create sexual desire in you. They cannot create. They can only copy and distort. Sexual desire is natural. It is human. What they do is amplify your natural desire far beyond normal levels, like turning up the volume on a radio until the speaker blows. And they time it specifically to disrupt your ascension. They have learned through millennia of observation that pneumatics with high vital energy can be contained most effectively through a two-step protocol. Amplified desire, followed by crushing shame. It is their primary containment system for high-value targets. And you have been a high-valued target since your first breath. Here is how the amplification works in real time. You have a breakthrough meditation, a moment of genuine heart-opening connection to the monad. Your frequency elevates beyond their normal harvest range. You are off their radar. And within minutes, sometimes within seconds of coming back to normal consciousness, intense sexual desire floods your system. That is not coincidence. That is targeted reestablishment of the harvest connection. The Archons recognize when you exit their frequency fence, so they inject amplified desire to pull you back down into the body, into the dense matter. Either you act on it and produce guilt loosh, or you suppress it and produce conflict loosh. Either way, they are harvesting. They also amplify through environmental triggers. You are scrolling through content. Your mind is neutral, and suddenly something sexual appears in a highlight. That image generates mild interest in you. That same image creates an intense, almost overwhelming physical response. Why? Because the Archons know your unique energetic signature. They know exactly which images, which thoughts, which scenarios will trigger maximum amplification in your specific system, and they algorithmically increase your exposure to those triggers. That is why it feels like sexual content is everywhere. For most people, it is background noise. For you, it is a targeted broadcast. And then there are the intrusive thoughts. You are going about your day, washing dishes, driving, and suddenly a sexual fantasy appears. Vivid, detailed, shocking. You did not summon it. You did not want it. It just appeared like a pop-up ad in your mind. That is Archon insertion. They have access to your memory and imagination fields. They can generate scenarios designed to amplify your desire at moments when you are most vulnerable. Late at night, early morning, during prayer. The goal is always the same. Create intensity that feels unmanageable, make you react unconsciously, and harvest the loosh that follows. But here is what changes the entire game. Every time you felt that intensity and paused, every time you have questioned whether you should act on it, you have already broken their protocol. The Archons need unconscious reaction. Conscious awareness is kryptonite to their harvest. And you have been aware for longer than you realize. You have been disrupting their system for years. You just interpreted your awareness as weakness when it was actually your power activating. You might be wondering, if this is such a common attack, why do you not hear everyone talking about it? Why does it feel like you are alone in this struggle in your spiritual communities? You are not alone, but you are in a very small percentile. And understanding why this does not happen to everyone will help you see just how special your energetic blueprint actually is. Hylics do not experience Archon amplification of sexual desire because they do not need it. They are already fully engaged with material consciousness. They act on desire naturally. No conflict, no energy spike worth harvesting. Most psychics do not experience it because their spiritual seeking is mostly intellectual. They read books about enlightenment. They think about consciousness. But they are not actually raising their frequency to levels that threaten the Archon harvest system. So the Archons leave them mostly alone. Light monitoring, but not the full amplification protocol. But you are different. You have the monad spark activated. You are not just thinking about awakening. Your consciousness is actually capable of reaching frequencies that exit the Archon perception range entirely. You are not seeking spirituality as a hobby. You are seeking it as a return home. And that makes you a legitimate threat to their entire energy economy. So they deploy their most effective containment protocol against you. Sexual amplification combined with shame harvesting. The intensity you feel is actually a backhanded compliment from the Matrix. It means you are powerful enough to require their most sophisticated weaponry. You are not weak. You are so strong they have to work overtime just to keep you contained. And even then, you keep breaking free. Let me show you how to recognize Archon amplification the moment it is happening, so you can transmute it consciously instead of reacting unconsciously. You have probably been recognizing these signs already without knowing what you were seeing. Now you will have the language for it. The first sign is timing. Amplified desire does not come randomly. It comes right after spiritual highs. You finish a powerful prayer, and within minutes, intense desire floods your system. You have a breakthrough insight about the nature of reality, and suddenly, sexual thoughts intrude. That timing is the clearest signature. When desire consistently appears right after you elevate your frequency, that is not natural desire. That is Archon reestablishment of the harvest connection. The second sign is intensity that feels foreign. Normal sexual desire arises naturally and passes naturally. It is a wave. What you are experiencing is a tsunami. It feels like a force being pushed into you from the outside rather than arising organically from within. That is because it is. The Archons are adding their frequency to your natural baseline, creating an artificial intensity. The third sign is interference. It interrupts your sacred time. You sit down to meditate, and sexual thoughts intrude. You try to read sacred texts, and fantasies hijack your focus. They time amplification specifically to sabotage the practices that threaten their control. When you recognize that your desire is being weaponized against your own growth, you stop seeing it as your weakness and start seeing it as their fear strategy. The fourth sign, and this is the most important one, is disproportionate shame. When you act on desire, even in perfectly natural, healthy ways, the guilt you feel afterward is crushing, way beyond what the situation warrants. You feel stained. You feel unworthy of the divine. That disproportionate shame is the Archon harvest in full operation. They are extracting high-grade loosh from the guilt spike. When you can recognize shame as external harvest rather than internal judgment, the shame loses its power to generate loosh, and when the loosh stops flowing, they stop amplifying. You become an unprofitable target. Now, let me show you what Jesus actually taught Mary Magdalene about conscious transmutation. This is the technique that the church tried to erase. This is what you have been doing unconsciously your entire life. He said to her, "The fire that the Archons use to burn you is the same fire you use to forge yourself. It is the same energy. The only difference is consciousness. When you are unconscious, the fire burns you and they harvest the ash. When you are conscious, the fire forges you and you become unharvestable gold." Here is the technique. It is simple because you already know it in your soul. When intense sexual desire appears, stop. Do not act. Do not suppress. Step 1 is recognition. Say inwardly, "This is Archon amplification. This intensity is artificial." That recognition alone shifts you from unconscious reaction to conscious witnessing. You are no longer the puppet. You are the observer of the strings. Step 2 is location. Locate the energy in your body. Do not focus on the fantasy in your mind. Focus on the sensation in your body. Where is the heat? Where is the pressure? It will be concentrated in the lower chakras. Feel the raw physical sensation without the story attached to it. Step 3 is the breath of fire. Breathe the energy upward. On each inhale, visualize and feel you are pulling that raw heat from the base of your spine up through the central channel. Pull it through the solar plexus, through the heart, through the throat, and up into the third eye center in the forehead. Use your breath as a pump. After several deep, conscious breaths, you will notice something remarkable. The intensity is still there, but it is no longer sexual desire. It is no longer localized in the genitals. It has become pure, buzzing, vital force distributed throughout your light body. You have transmuted lead into gold. Step 4 is direction. Immediately direct that elevated energy toward a spiritual focus. Do not let it dissipate. Meditate now. Pray now. Do creative work now. Use the amplified energy to connect with the monad. You have taken their weapon and turned it into your fuel. And here is the most important part of the secret. Zero shame. When you transmute consciously, there is no guilt. There is only power. That is alchemy. And alchemy produces zero louche. Now, I need to show you the deepest level of the Archon protocol, because understanding this is what breaks their system completely. The Archons do not amplify sexual desire just to make you act on it. That is only the setup. The real harvest, the main course, happens in what comes after. The shame. The crushing feeling that you are a spiritual failure. Jesus told Mary Magdalene something that would get you burned at the stake in the Middle Ages. He said, "The Archons cannot harvest a soul who feels no shame." Shame is the frequency they feed on most ravenously. It is a dense, sticky energy that traps you in the lower astral planes. When you transmute without guilt, you produce nothing they can use. The shame is the prize. The desire is just the bait on the hook. Shame only works when you believe that intense desire equals spiritual failure. But when you understand the cosmic logic, when you understand that your intensity is proof of power, not weakness, when you recognize that you are experiencing artificial amplification from external entities, not failure from internal corruption, the shame loses its foundation. You are not failing. You are being attacked. There is no shame in being attacked. There is only strategy. The next time you feel shame after sexual desire, stop. Recognize it immediately. Say, "This shame is Archon harvest in progress. This is not my voice. This is their feeding mechanism trying to activate." That recognition dissolves the shame frequency. It pops the bubble. And when shame dissolves, Loosh production stops. The Archons get starving. You are not weak for feeling this fire. You are powerful. The intensity is proof of the vital energy you carry, and that vital energy is what makes you capable of reaching the monad. The Archons know this. That is why they attack. That is why they amplify. Because you are threatening to them, and you have been resisting that attack, transmuting that energy, and breaking free from their system unconsciously for your entire life. Every time you felt guilty, that was you sensing the harvest. Now you know how to stop it. Tonight, when that intense desire appears, and it will appear, because they are watching, recognize it as amplification. Feel it as raw energy. Breathe it upward. Direct it toward the monad. Zero shame. And watch how their entire protocol collapses. Watch how the fire that used to burn you starts to forge you. If you recognize yourself in this teaching, if you know you are a pneumatic who has been transmuting unconsciously, you need to anchor this realization in the physical reality right now. Do 3 things to seal this knowledge. First, comment below, "I am already free." Declare your conscious mastery to the field. Let the Archons know you have seen their playbook. Second, subscribe to this channel, because advanced transmutation techniques for other emotions like anger and fear are coming next. This is just the beginning of your deprogramming. Third, like this video. Signal to the algorithmic field that this truth needs to reach other chosen ones who are suffering in shame unnecessarily. Do all 3 now. You are not becoming a master. You already are one. You are just waking up to what you have always been doing. The Archons tried to harvest you. Instead, you have been using their attacks as resistance training to build your spiritual muscles. That is the power of a pneumatic. That is the power of the monad spark in human form. The fire is yours. Use it.